Hey everybody, Ruan here from tunnelviziontv, and today I'm going to show you guys how to do this effect. So a lot of you will actually recognize this effect from the new FreddieW video called Metal Gear Sun Rising. This effect is not that difficult to do. All you need is Adobe After Effects, and you'll use that for the compositing, and then you'll need 3dsMax and a plugin called Rayfire for 3dsMax, where you will actually create the 3D shatter effect, including the shadows and all those kind of things, but I'll get into that in a few minutes. So let me show you the actual raw footage that I took to do this scene. First of all, I recorded a clean plate just on a tripod of a little scene here in my backyard. And then I recorded a shot where I'm basically just standing kind of still, just like that. And then the third shot is just me walking into the scene and doing the kick. So that's it. That's all you need to do this effect. So what we need to do is we need to create a texture of me or of the actor. And we're going to be creating a 3D model, a rough 3D model from that within 3dsMax. And then break that up into pieces. And then we're going to bring that back into After Effects for the final composite. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up the clip where I'm basically standing still. I'm going to zoom in here, and then I'm just going to roto around myself. So once you're done with that, we're going to crop the composition just so that it's big enough, or just to trim it down so this texture will actually just fit into that. So we can just zoom out here a little bit, go to your composition and then composition settings, and then just scale it down until it fits your texture. And then just move your image to the center. Okay, now this doesn't need to be perfect. I'll explain in a bit why it's only going to be like a rough texture. Basically, you will only see that texture for approximately 1 or 2 frames just before it shatters into many pieces. So it's not really that important, but try and get it as close as possible. Once you're done with your texture, we're just going to export it as a PNG file. So usually I can go save frame as, but sometimes this pops up and I don't know why. So I'm just going to go to add to render queue, and I'm going to select PNG still. Just going to make sure if these settings are right. So it's going to be on PNG sequence, and make sure alpha is clicked here. Click on OK, specify a folder, and click save, and click render. Now we only need one, so that's fine, we can stop it. Alright, I'm going to close it down. And if I go to the text, you'll see all these images. Just delete all the ones you don't need. Okay, and there you go, there's your texture. So next step we want to do is we want to take a still shot from the frame where I'm actually standing in the frame. So let's just delete this mask. So let's go to save frame, save it as a PNG file. Go OK, and we can just call this position. Save, render. So now we've got our texture, we've got our clean plate, and we've got the position. Alright, so I'm going to copy these 3 files over to my PC, and then I'll see you guys in 3dsMax. Okay, here we are in 3dsMax. I'm using 2012, but I'm sure you can follow along with all the other versions. So first of all, I'm going to maximize my viewport. I'm going to go to Views, Viewport Background, then click on Files, and we're going to import the picture that or the PNG file that we exported. So let's just go to the desktop, tutorial, and I'm going to import the one with the position where I'm actually in the frame. I'll show you guys now why I'm doing this. And I usually just click the Use System Default Gamma, click Open, and very important, click Match Bitmap. That's just to keep the aspect ratio correct. Click OK, there you go. Alright, first of all, what we want to do here is we want to position the grid so it actually aligns with our floor. So just play around with it, and it shouldn't be too difficult if you've got a fairly flat scene like this one. And just try and align it sort of so that everything looks flat and nice. So that's perfect. and then we're going to go to create, and we're going to go to cameras and click on create camera from view. So it will create a camera from this view. It's going to lock it in place. So if we want to move the perspective around, we can do so, and then you can just go back to camera and it's going to be locked in place. So the next step is to trace your actor, and we're going to create a very rough model or a object in 3D space from that actor. So what you need to do first, you have to go out of camera view to do this. So I'm going to go into front view, and I'm going to go to shapes on the right hand side and click on line, and then I'm just going to draw a very rough shape around the actor just to get the outlines. Okay, once you've done that, we're going to extrude it. So we're going to go to modify, click on the modifier list, go to extrude, and just give it an amount of about 10. That should be fine. And I want to go back to my camera view, and there we go. So what I want to do is I want to move this back, kind of in place, move it up, and we want to try and level it to the actual grid or to the axes in 3dsMax. So I'm going to go to perspective, and as we can see here, we're completely off the grid. So I'm going to go into the front view and just move it up. There you can see there's the line, so we're going to try and just match it to that. And let's go back to camera view. Okay, so now we actually know that we're on that line, but we obviously doesn't look like it. So we need to move it forward, get it on the line, and as you can see, this model is way too big. So that's still fine. Let's just scale it down a bit. Move it down to onto the line. Go back to the camera view, and I'm just going to go into perspective and just move it a bit closer to the grid. Go back to camera view. Okay, now we're almost there. I'm going to move it this way. Go back to perspective. Move it closer, maybe a bit this way. Just looking at the grid here at the bottom. Go back to camera view. Just try and line it up with your actor. So just try and line it up. I know it takes some time to do this, but it shouldn't be too difficult. Just move it around in 3D space and just try and cover your actor with this model that we created. So the next step is we're going to go into the material editor. Click on the first material, go down to maps, click on diffuse color, click on none, click on maps, click on bitmap, and we're going to actually load that texture that we cut out in After Effects. There we go, and we're going to drag that texture to this new created object. And another thing that you can enable in your viewport under realistic, just go to materials and just click on realistic materials with maps. Okay, and it should give you a realistic reflection of what the thing will look like. And this is probably the most difficult part of the whole tutorial, or of this whole effect. You need to try and get the texture so it looks like it's actually facing the camera, and it needs to be sort of, it needs to look like the actor from the side or from the front or whatever angle you took this video. Okay, so after playing around a bit with the texture, I got it to look something like this. As you can see, it's definitely not perfect, but for this effect, you won't actually see the model like this. The first frame of it that you will see will be when it's already starting to shatter. Okay, so now for the fun part. So we need to try and build our environment in 3D as well, so that the shattering objects can actually interact with some of the walls and stuff in the scene. If there is nothing in the scene, you can just do a floor. That's perfect. That's the easiest way to go for. But in this tutorial, I actually wanted to show if there is a wall or maybe something in the way, then you can use that to interact as well. So we're going to go to our geometry and go to standard primitives. Just go to box. So we're just going to draw a kind of a wall here. It's going to be that wall, and that's going to be the side wall. just something like that. You can just extend it up a bit. And I'm not really going to worry for the back wall and this wall for this tutorial, but you can go and create all the walls and stuff in your scene to just make it more realistic. And then of course obviously also a floor. Now I like to use a box rather than a plane because it's got thickness, and sometimes when using a plane the objects actually fall through it. So I'm just going to draw a floor. There we go. And let's make it nice and big. Okay, so once you've built your scene, we're actually going to start with the shatter effect. So if we go to perspective view, you can see there's the actor, there's the walls that I've sort of built around it. And just extend this one a little bit, move it that way. There we go, that should be fine. And what I'm going to be doing for the kick effect, I'm just going to add a box that's going to basically travel through this object to simulate the kick that I'm going to do. So I'm just going to draw a box here, maybe just something like that. Just line it up so it's going to go through the model. Very simple. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to auto key and just go to say about 50, and then just move it through your model. So if we play that back, it's just going to be a box flying through the model, and that should be fine. So let's just give this thing a name. Let's just call this kick, and this is floor, wall 1, wall 2. And then we're going to go to the standard primitives drop down, and we're going to click on Rayfire. That's the plugin that you actually need to do the shatter effect with. And we're going to click on Rayfire and then open the Rayfire floater. And in the objects section, we basically going to add the model to the dynamic and impact objects. Scroll down to the static. We're going to add the kick and also the floor and any walls and stuff that you have that you want to have your objects interact with. Next step is we want to fragment the object. So it will automatically fragment anything that's in the dynamic box. So go to fragmentation, and I'm going to leave the settings default for now, but you can obviously play around with this, and I'm going to click on fragment. There you go. And one thing before we're going to test this, the physics of this, I'm going to go to objects, and you can see here's all the fragments that it actually created. And we want to click on menu and then click on send to sleeping list. So if you add them to the sleeping list, here you can see it's the sleeping objects. It will wait for this object to pass into it, and then it will start to react to that. And we're going to go to physics, and we're just going to click on this start simulation in preview mode. And let's see what it does. So I'm just going to stop that. So I'm just going to delete that simulation, make sure my objects are still all there. I'm going to fragment again because I stopped it and I deleted it, so I need to fragment again. And I'm going to go to objects again, and remember to add these objects to the sleeping list. Go to physics, and I'm going to click the second button, which will actually save or bake that animation. And we just quickly wait. There we go. And there's the physics simulation. It's looking really cool. Okay, so once your animation is baked, you can go ahead and you can delete your kick object. And we can leave the other objects because we're going to actually be rendering the shadow maps and the ambient occlusion maps and all of those, so you'll need them for that. and you can actually see that the simulation is looking quite cool. So as I explained to you guys that you won't be seeing this frame, if I just go forward with this, the first frame that you will actually see will be that frame. So, and it's going to be very quickly, so it's going to be that frame and then it's going to move on to all these other fragments. So you're not really going to see the detail on that, but as I said, try and get it as good as possible, always better, but doesn't really matter. So there we go. Okay, so now you can render your animation. I'm not really going to go into the different render passes in this tutorial. Click on this link and I will explain a little bit more about the three different passes, the normal pass, shadow pass and ambient occlusion pass. And once you've rendered your video out, we're going to go back into After Effects for the final composite. So once we've done with all the rendering in 3dsMax, I'm going to show you quickly how to actually composite everything together. So we're back in After Effects and we're going to import our footage. So we've got the clean plate and we've got the shot of me just standing still, and then also the shot of me walking and doing the kick. So also want to import all the renders from 3dsMax. Okay, so this is our normal pass. And we're going to import our shadow pass. And we're also going to import the ambient occlusion pass. Okay, so once you have all that, we're going to, first of all, we're just going to drag one of these, I think this is the clean plate, into new comp. And that's the clean plate. And then we're going to take the one where I'm basically standing still, just put it on top. And just go to the frame where I am standing in the correct position. Let's just trim it a bit and move it to the front. And we just need a little section like that. That should be fine. Okay, and then I'm going to import the footage where I'm doing the kick. So I think it's the second one. There we go. So let's just trim it from there. Walking in, doing the kick. This is the plate. Standing, and that's the kick. So we go to the standing layer, and I'm just going to quickly sort of mask around me. There we go. And this one, the kick footage, we just need to mask around me as well. There we go. And then you just need to extend that mask so that the kick will actually go onto or over that footage. So I'm not going to do it perfectly now, you guys will get the idea. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in my normal render, my normal pass render, and I'm just going to put that on top. And let's just go through here and see what's happening. Okay, so you can see the actual shatter happens right about there. So we can just frame forward to get where I'm actually doing the kick. Right there. And you just basically line this up. Just zoom in here a bit. There we go. And obviously once it's shatter, you want to hide the standing layer. So this layer will basically end right about there. I think one frame back. There we go. So now if we just scrub through this frame by frame, you'll see there it will start with a shatter. And obviously before it shatters, you don't want to see the bad sort of 3ds model. So we're going to go to the shatter frame, and that normal pass, we're just going to trim that to right about there. So if you go one frame back, you'll see the actual footage. One forward, you'll see the shatter. So there we go. If I play it slowly, and there it's shattering all over the place. So what we do next is we bring in the shadow pass, put it underneath the normal pass, just line it up. There we go. So we should have the shadows going all over the place. And last, we're going to bring in the ambient occlusion, put that on top of the normal pass. And we're just going to change the mode to multiply, and we're just going to line it up with the footage. Let's have a look. There you go. And you can see there's some line going through the footage here. That's just the ambient occlusion. So all it goes, you add an effect to it. We go to matte, we go to simple choker, just add a 1 pixel, and that line is gone. Another thing that you can do, as you can see, the normal pass is quite sharp if I zoom in here. So what I usually do is just zoom in a bit, go to the normal pass, add an effect, add a blur and sharpen, go to fast blur, click repeat edges, and just give it a 1.5 blur, and just try and match it up with your camera's footage. Okay, let's look at that quickly. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. As you can see, not really difficult to do, but it's a great effect and many uses for this effect. So yeah, please subscribe to my channel, means a lot to me, and also like and share and leave comments below if you guys have any questions. Thank you. Cheers. Bye bye.